The air hangs thick with the coppery stench of failure. Kale carries what is left of Jory C on his back. The weight a dull, miserable ache that sinks deeper than his bones. Behind them, the sounds of the pursuit have faded, but not the memory, the chirping. Bird-minus like calls of the Utahraptor pack still echo in his mind. A promise of violence deferred, not ended. Joe Rick's blood soaks the hides on Kale's shoulders. The burn, what reminder of how quickly the savannah gives and takes. They are 3 fewer than when they left at dawn. 3 good hunters lost for 1 meager kill, which the raptors now feast upon. This is the brutal calculus of prehistoric life. A balance sheet written in blood and bone. The clan huddles at the mouth of their cave, their faces etched with the familiar grief that follows every hunt. Joe Rick's mate does not wail. She simply stares, her silence a heavier stone than any scream. Kale lays the body down gently and turns away, the image of the attack burning behind his eyes. But another image fights for dominance, one he saw 2 suns ago. A vision that now feels like a prophecy. He had been tracking a lone herbivore and he stumbled upon the clearing. I heard of Triceratops, a dozen strong, were grazing peacefully until the raptors came. The pack, sleek and feathered and impossibly fast, burst from the cycad forest. But the lumbering giants did not scatter. In a movement of breathtaking, instinctual discipline, they turned, not away, but toward each other. Their massive bodies formed a circle, a living fortress of flesh and bone. The young were driven to the center, protected. The adults faced outward, a perimeter of impenetrable frills and 3 horned skulls, a living wall of death. The horn rule. The raptors, masters of the ambush and the killing strike, were utterly baffled. They fined head. They charged. They squeezed in frustration. But they could find no seam, no weakness. They broke themselves against that fortress until, bleeding undefeated, they retreated. He finds the elder, Bor, sharpening a spear point with a shard of flint. Bor's hands are gnarled, his face a roadmap of scars, each one a story of survival. He grips his heavy club, a crude masterpiece of osteodontocratic technology. The femur of some great beast polished smooth by use and does not look up. Kale speaks, his voice raspy, using hands and motions to fill the gaps his words cannot. He draws in the dirt a circle of beasts, horns pointing out. Then he draws stick figures, his people, in the same formation. He mimes holding a shield of hide and bone, a long spear braced against the earth, a human horn minus wall. Bor finally looks up, his eyes old and tired. He glances at Joe Rick's body, then back at the frantic drawing in the dust. He shakes his head slowly, a gesture of profound finality. He speaks. His words are low rumble of dismissal. We are not beasts. We are hunters. We move. We stalk. We are the quick spirit, not the dumb mountain. His gaze dismisses Kale's idea as the fantasy of a grief minus adult mind. The clan members in agreement. To stand still is to die. Every one of their human ancestors knew this truth. They turn back to their wounds and their hunger, leaving Kale alone with his vision. A madman drawing impossible shapes in the dirt as the world closes in. The raptors do not allow them to grieve. The pack, bolder now, pushes closer to the cave. Their shadows flit at the edge of the firelight. Their hunting calls are constant, a nerving chorus in the dark. They are not merely waiting for another hunt. They are laying siege. Bor knows this land. He knows that to stay is to starve. Trapped until the raptors' patience outlasts their own supplies of dried meat and courage. Before the next dawn, he makes the call. They will move. They will abandon their home, the cave that has sheltered their kin for generations, and seek the high rocks to the east. It is a desperate gamble, a flight into the unknown. The clan gathers their meager possessions, stone tools, water skins, the embers of their precious fire, and moves out into the great twilight. A silent, fearful procession of ancient humans leaving the only world they have ever known. The pack follows. They remain just out of spear minus range. a feathered tide of menace flowing through the tall grass. They are intelligent, strategic. They do not launch a full assault. Instead, they test the edges of the moving clan, feinting charges that cause panic, forcing the humans to expend energy and focus. A young forager, stumbling on a loose rock, is snatched from the rear of the column before a cry can fully leave her lips. The attack is a blur of sickle claws and a sharp, snapping sound from a character no US beak. The clan can only flee forward. Their traditional survival skills tracking, stalking, the patient ambush rendered useless. They are no longer the hunters. They are the herd, and the wolves are culling them at will. The world has been inverted. Exhaustion gnaws at them. Thirst cracks their lips. Ahead, Bioa spots a break in the landscape, the mouth of a box canyon. Its high, sheer rock walls promise a defensible position, a place to rest, to drink from the seep that must surely line its walls, a place to make a stand. Relief washes over the clan. They scramble inside, a huddled, panting mass of humanity. For a moment, there is quiet. The chirping of the pursuing pack ceases. They drink from a small, natty pool, their fear momentarily quenched by the life minus giving water. But the silence stretches, becomes unnatural, heavy. Kale climbs a short way up the scree slope and looks back toward the entrance. His blood runs cold. The raptors are there. Not one or two, but the whole pack. A dozen strong, arrayed across the canyon's mouth. They are not attacking. They are simply waiting, blocking the only way out. The canyon is not a sanctuary. It is a tomb. The chilling truth lands like a physical blow. They were not fleeing into a refuge. They were being herded into a trap. Desperation claws at the clan's composure. Two of the boldest hunters, driven by a surge of panic rage, charge the raptor line. The attack is pathetic. The raptors part like water around a stone, then close in from the sides. It is over in seconds. Now, the true terror begins. The raptors sit, patient as stone. Their bright, avian eyes watching. They will wait. They will let the sun, the thirst, and the suffocating fear do their work. Bioa watches his people. He sees their faces, pale and drawn, the hope draining from them like blood from a wound. He sees the future his clan, picked off one by one, their screams echoing off the walls of this stone cage until none are left. The old ways are death. He turns and finds Kale. The younger man is not watching the raptors. He is watching the clan. His face a mask of grim intensity. In that moment, Bioa sacrifices the thing he holds most dear, his certainty. He walks to Kale, the weight of his clan's extinction on his shoulders. He doesn't speak. He picks up a broad, hide-minus-covered shield and a long, fire-minus-hardened spear. He looks at Kale, his old eyes pleading. He nods toward the open space in the center of the doomed clan. Show me. There is no time for debate. Kale moves with the frantic energy of a man possessed by a ghost of the future. He grabs hunters by the shoulders, shoving them into a rough circle. He uses his spear to trace the perimeter in the dust. Grunting, biting, his eyes wild with a desperate clarity. At first, there is only chaos. The men are terrified, their movements clumsy, their instincts screaming at them to run, to climb, to do anything but stand still in the open. But Bioa is the anchor. The old elder stands firm, his shield up, his spear braced, his unquestioning obedience a silent command to the others. Slowly, a crude shape begins to form. Kale moves within the circle, adjusting a shoulder here, lowering a spear point there. He shows them how to overlap their shields' brittle constructions of wooden hide to cover the gaps. He demonstrates how to plant the butt of their long, fire-hardened spears into the earth, creating a hedge of deadly points. These are ancient tools, designed for the thrust and parry of a hunt, now being forged into the components of a living wall, a fortress of shivering flesh and fragile hope. The raptors watch this strange ritual, their heads cocked with intelligent curiosity. They have seen prey scatter, time, and fight with individual fury. They have never seen prey organize. The late raptor, a magnificent brute with a scar across its snout, lets out a sharp, interrogatory chat. Then, it charges. It is a test. A single hunter screams as the feathered missile of muscle and claw slams into his shield. The wood groans, the hide tears, but the braced spear beside him holds. The raptor, impaled on another point, recoils with a shriek of shock and pain. It stumbles back, dragging a wounded leg, its surprise turning to reptilian fury. The formation held. For a single, breathless moment, the humans realize the impossible at work. A spark of defiance ignites in the circle. It is no longer just careless madness. It is their shield, their rule, their only chance. He screams a single, guttural command. Forward, the human fortress lurches into motion. It is a clumsy, shuffling beast, a tortoise made of men. They move step by agonizing step toward the mouth of the canyon.
Knot, every pull
A bristling circle of death pushing back the tide of dinosaurs. The raptors, enraged and confused, launch a full assault. They crash against the shields, their sickle claws tearing at the hides, their jaws snapping inches from exposed faces. But they cannot find purchase for every raptor that lunges. It meets a wall of overlapping shields and a thicket of spear points. The hunters inside the circle jab and thrust, their fear replaced by a focused, collective rage. They are a single organism, a creature born of desperation and a stolen idea, a landmark moment in the vast, unwritten saga of hominid history. The pack, having lost 3 of its own unable to break this bizarre, moving fortress, finally hesitates. They give ground, their confident chirps turning to frustrated hisses. The human phalanx does not stop. It grinds forward, over the bodies of the fallen raptors, and out of the canyon's mouth, into the open plain. They do not run. They stand, exhausted and bloodied, in their circle of defiance, a silent testament to a turning point in prehistory. The clan did not cheer. They stood in the fading light, leaning on one another, their bodies trembling with exhaustion and adrenaline. They were alive, but the world was forever changed. That day, in a dusty, blood-soaked canyon, something new was born onto the face of the planet. It was not a sharper tooth or a stronger claw, but an idea that the coordinated intelligence of the small could defeat the isolated power of the great. This was the first army. This was the first strategy. This was the moment a species of clever prey looked upon the monstrous rulers of their world and decided they would no longer accept the terms of their survival. The blueprint for every shield wall, every fortress, every battle plan that would shape the destiny of Homo sapiens for millions of years to come was sketched that afternoon in the dirt, a desperate imitation of a dinosaur. It poses a question that beats at the heart of our own story: how much of that first, terrifying step forward, shielded by nothing but bone, hide, and a revolutionary ideal, still echoes in the courage we find today when we stand together against the impossible. For the chronicle of our ascent is written not in the stars, but in the dust of forgotten battlegrounds, on the bones of giants who taught us how to stand. But intelligence is a fire, and some fires attract far larger shadows.